We're back for another week of In the NZone with Noel Mazzone. And Coach, I'm excited about these games that we have to talk about here. Been another great week of football.
Oh my gosh, 2 weeks in a row, right?
Oh,
Two
man.
weeks in a row, unbelievable weekends. I mean, great games every weekend, upsets. I mean, some really innovative stuff on offense that's been cool to watch from all different levels. So it's been a lot of fun the last 2 weeks. And we're making up for all that lost time last year.
Yeah, it's good to see those full stadiums and everything back in full swing, and you know the passion behind those games that it deserves, the energy behind having a full stadium. And let's start with one here at the Shoe in Columbus, Ohio. We had number 3 Ohio State being upset by number 11 Oregon, and I think both you and I agree that Joe Moorhead was just calling a masterpiece of a game.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, he painted the Michelangelo Saturday, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
It seemed like he had all the answers, set things up like really cool, did a great job of just attacking, not playing defense on offense. He was attacking all the time and setting stuff up and really making Ohio State adjust their defense and fit everything correctly.
That's for sure. He put his defense in a good position where they could play from being ahead, right? Because that was a high-powered Ohio State team. But there was a lot of things, I think, to look at. Number one, I thought the main thing that got their ground game going has been something you and I have been talking about here the last couple of weeks, the outside zone.
Yeah, the stretch play in Mario. They've always been that way, but you can tell about the heart and soul of that football team is I think both those football teams was that offensive line and that D front.
Yeah. And
the offensive line did a great job running the stretch, and then they ran a little, some jet sweep with it, a little power read look. So they were stretching the defense, and they were out leveraging the defense a lot.
And we saw the RPO at play quite a bit. One that I really liked, they had that one. I know they ran it on the goal line. I think they ran it maybe on a 3rd and long or something like that, or another part of the field. But they ran a zone read, and then that quarterback comes out, and he's got the tight end running a corner. And it's definitely, they were, I looked at it, they're block and run inside. They ran it off of a split zone look, so he did have that tight end out there blocking for him as well.
And I think they ran a couple, I know they scored on one of it, but I saw it from numerous teams on Saturday was, conventional RPO is call the run to the left and you conflict read the guy on the backside, right? Mm-hmm. If he chases the run or goes to fit the run, then you kind of fill the void he creates on the backside of the run.
Right.
I think I've seen a lot more of same side RPOs. So now instead of throwing it on a backside linebacker or a backside safety, I've thrown it on the front side linebacker or the front side safety as he supports the stretch play or the power read or the pin and pull, whatever you're running to that side. And I've been seeing kind of the move of the RPO is really starting to evolve because defenses are doing a good job of fitting the backside of these runs now for the RPO. Right. Well, now the next step is they got to fit the front side of a run for the RPO, which really puts them in stress.
Yeah, definitely. When you think about just the same way a defense would attack protection, right? They've gotten smart knowing that they're trying to conflict this guy over here, but now he's looking over his shoulder on the other side and getting around and throwing the ball there. So that's not an easy move. How do you train that up, Coach? How do you train him to do that same side stuff?
It's not a lot different than the backside guys. Basically, to me, it's just a numbers game to either side. So I know if I'm reading a play side RPO that there's going to be a D-gap defender. There's got to be a C or a D-gap defender to support this run. And so he would basically be my key. On the backside, a lot of times you're reading more of a guy that's a backside A-B defender. And he's a guy for the cutback lanes that's filling the backside gaps. And he's more of your RPO or your conflict player. So it's just a matter of IDing how are they fitting this run and who is going to fit this run. All right. They got to have somebody to set the edge. Mm-hmm. All right. And then they got to have a cutback player on the backside. So those are basically your two guys.
From a strategy perspective, when are you looking to use that same side RPO? Is there a certain rotation you like? Is there a movement from that, that secondary that's going to key you into saying, okay, it's time to attack over here now?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it depends on the back end. That's why I think he did a really nice job when you start to get in that low red zone. Obviously, the second-level guys and the third-level guys are a lot more aggressive for run, to support run, because they're in, because it's in the red zone. They don't have as much vertical stretch to worry about, so they're going to play a little flatter, a little bit lower, probably support the run a little bit quicker, so you can get that quick read. I think that it becomes like you really set it up more situational. And then the second thing is, who are you going to use to fill that void for the RPO route? A lot of times it's the interior players, because secondary guys are going to support the run on the outside. They're going to be D-gap leverage guys. And so I think they actually used an inline tight end, all right, to kind of wash it down and then kind of sneak in behind the secondary, because they were supporting the run.
Yeah, it was masterful, as I said, the way Coach Moorhead put that game plan together and they executed it, and it seemed like he was just always one step ahead.
And nothing against Ryan and Coach Dick, because that guy's smart as hell too.
Oh yeah,
right. They're both like guys that understand and have great systems offensively.
Yeah, can't take anything away from that team, and I'm sure we'll hear more of them right now. I do think this is going to be a year. I don't think it's going to be a year where you see multiple undefeated teams as we get down to the end. I think there's just a lot of firepower across college football.
A lot of pretty good offenses out there right now.
We'll flip to a different game where you had an offense that actually didn't gain a ton of yards, which is what happens when you get some turnovers, but score quickly on short fields. But we had Iowa defeating Iowa State in the Cyhawk game. And first of all, the big thing that stuck out to me was converting those turnovers into points. That's something that Iowa did very well. And when they were able to take the ball away, they made Iowa State pay.
It's the old 12% rule, right? It's hard to win with turnovers, sacks, drop balls, and foolish penalties. When I think of Iowa and Iowa offense, I think of like that steady girlfriend, right? They're just going to line up. You know what they do. They come in. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play good defense. They're going to protect the football. And I really think, because Iowa State's defense, which they run, that cyclone defense. Yeah. Which I've had a chance. I haven't played Iowa State, but I've had a chance to go against a couple defenses that use the same scheme, which is kind of built for the whole RPO world and the spread sets and kind of what most of us are in now. And you really have to be a patient guy against that type of defense, against their defense. And I think that's right up Iowa's alley offensively. They're happy with the 3 and 4 yard gains.
Right. And I mean, they did have short field, but Iowa State actually outgained them almost 2-1. You had 173 yards for the Hawkeyes and a 339 for Iowa State, 21 first downs versus 11 for Iowa. It wasn't necessarily that, Iowa couldn't get the job done, but I thought what Iowa defense did very well. And Phil Parker over there was really keep everything in front, right? It was like in baseball, like the no doubles defense, right? They were not allowing the big play. They limited the big plays, and that made a huge difference. When you look at turnovers, right? Turnovers especially into the points, and then you look at the amount of explosive plays. If you take away a lot of explosive plays, you take away that chance of scoring points, and they were able to hold them to 17.
Yeah, and you kind of live on explosive plays, right? I think it's something like one explosive play a drive. Yeah. I think your scoring average goes up from like 30% to 80%. Right. There's, don't quote me on that, but it's something like you go, really? And all I need is you can just create one explosive play in any drive. Your scoring average really goes up. Your percentage to score really goes up. And you're exactly right. That's what they did. They limited that, kept everything in front, played good old-fashioned football. Run the ball, play defense.
I know when you're looking at game planning, you spend a lot of time on the first and second down and then third downs, right? You're going to be in third down some. But in the course of your game planning, how much are you looking for those explosive play opportunities? Maybe to tag something here or to focus on something that's going to get you those big chunks of yardage.
There's two things, right? The drive starters, all right? So I think that's important. You got to get the drive started. So I think the P and 10 calls are important to focus on, right? So I can have something positive and not start, first and 15 or second and 15 or have something negative happen, where I can keep myself in that third and medium. And then you're always looking to, at some point, create space so you can put the ball in your playmakers' hands to create those explosive plays. We all know you're going to take your shots. I think you should take 6 to 8 shots a game, actually, but you're also looking to create numbers or a way to get the ball in my athlete's hands in space where you look. Explosive plays come from when you get one-on-one tackle opportunities.
Looking at some other games here, I know you liked the Stanford USC game. Enjoyed that one there. Stanford, of course, plays a brand of football that you're more used to seeing, I guess, in the Midwest, right? They have that power style of football. They want to knock people off the ball.
Yeah, intellectual brutality, right?
Right.
Is that what they call it?
Yes.
In Stanford? Yeah. And I tell you the difference I saw, and I can remember the kid from Corona Centennial, because I actually went and watched him play and offered him a scholarship, was the Tanner McKee kid. They're Stanford's quarterback. I think he's really going to be a special player. They've always had kind of the big physical wide receivers, tight end type guys, and he's not as much as they were in the past, with playing with 7 offensive linemen and power and unbalanced power and tackle at the tight end, tackle overs and all that. And I think that David, Coach Shaw, and those guys did a really nice job of ingraining more of their passing game into their offense.
From the concept standpoint, what are some of the favorite things you saw from Stanford?
I think they did a nice job of getting the ball vertically down the field, which they've always done a good job of. They hadn't in the last year. It's kind of like get the ball out quickly, get your quick game going. They've always been a big stick team. Stanford's going to run the ball, and they're never going to give up on the run. And I think they've done a nice job, though, of setting up their big cross-country plays, their shots down the field, and actually taking those shots in the course of the game. Moving
things ahead to Sunday, a great Sunday of football. The game I was really most interested in didn't necessarily turn out the way I wanted it to, but definitely some great.
You got to be talking about the Browns. You got to be talking about the Browns.
Always, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the standings today. You got everybody at 1-0 and Browns in last place at 0-1, and it's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. They're not going to stay there. They're a really good team. Those were 2 really good teams that played. But just didn't go their way in the end. Yeah, but what I was most impressed about with Patrick Mahomes, you've got Myles Garrett coming off one edge. You got Jadeveon Clowney coming off the other edge. And those guys were really getting upfield and towards Patrick Mahomes right away. Now, they didn't have a lot of sacks. They certainly pressured him out of the pocket. But I think their guys in the middle, their center and their 2 guards, did an incredible job of keeping those guys right where they were. So the whole pocket wasn't collapsing, and it opened up those lanes for Patrick Mahomes to escape to. And then you got guys out there like Kelsey and Tyreek Hill just running around and making plays.
I watched that game, and I could have watched the Oregon-Ohio State game and the Cleveland-Kansas City game. I could have watched those 2 games 10 times each.
Yeah. And
just go back and watching them because I thought they're both great games. 4 guys that really do a great job offensively. I mean, I love the stuff they're doing. You watch the Cleveland-Kansas City. Obviously, you got 2. I mean, I think those guys do a great job. And why I say that is because both of those guys, to me, just watching the game, do a great job of building offense around their personnel. You're looking at a Patrick Mahomes' unbelievable talent and how quickly, pretty limited run scheme, but how quickly how much he spreads the ball around and how quickly he spreads the ball around to all those explosive players they have on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's got the big go-to guy in Kelsey, and he's throwing it to Tyreek, and they bring in those the back. I mean, I think they do a great job. To me, I see a lot of college type offenses, I'm not going to say that they're running a college offense, but the type of attitude and the type of philosophy of like a lot of colleges do and how they distribute the ball and get it out quickly. Then you go on the flip side, and I love Baker Mayfield and the guys, you know, and Landry and all, and the two running backs, Hunt and Chubb, right? And I think he does a great job of moving the line, like we talked about, I think, this last week, right? Of moving the launch point for Baker, of setting up, using the run to set up his shot plays and his explosive plays down the field. So, I mean, those guys, I just love watching those guys coach football, because I think both those guys are just like at a different level offensively.
And then you saw that idea of using personnel. On the Cleveland Browns side, you got Beckham out this game still, recovering from that knee surgery. And right away, though, they don't hesitate. They go to one of their fastest guys on the field in the Schwartz kid from Auburn. And that guy's, you know, stretching the defense, making some plays as well. You know, there's some he didn't come up with, but not that hesitancy to go ahead and use your playmakers.
Yep. And I think that's your job, right? Your job is to identify your personnel and, you know, as Coach Belichick would say, think players, not plays sometimes. Mm-hmm. And your job is to put the ball in your playmakers' hands.
And you always see every single game, you can count on at least one kind of gadget play from Stefanski in the offense, and usually then another play right off of it that looks similar. So I think they did an end around there. And then they did another one where Odell was going to go out and throw the pass. Didn't have things. There was maybe a throwback to him. He didn't have things downfield. No, he just took off and ran for the touchdown.
Yeah. Well, you're going to see that from both those guys, he and Coach Reid, right?
Yeah.
They're always going to have something out of the ordinary that you haven't seen on film in their plan.
Looking at these two games, I thought just a ton of quarterback talent. When we look at the Oregon-Ohio State game, and we look at the KC-Cleveland game. But both games kind of end in a similar fashion. You have the quarterbacks scrambling around and probably making an ill-advised throw that gets picked on the sideline. Both of them ended that way. Opposite sides of the field to where they were throwing to, but similar outcomes. And I also remember, into the half, situation for Stroud where, you would think he was throwing to the end zone and he just threw underneath there. And, you hear a lot of people then criticize these guys don't know what they're doing. They're just young. They haven't learned that yet. The situational side of it that gets coached up. I know as coaches, we spend a lot of time trying to give them those situations, and these things still happen. I mean, you're talking about guys who have to make split-second decisions on in chaos, and they're not obviously trying to throw an interception. They're trying to win a ball game, but those things happen, and certainly then the spotlight falls on them, and everybody wondering, why doesn't this guy know those things? Why doesn't he know the situational part?
Yeah, and the one on Stroud there in Ohio State. I mean, when I watched that, to me, he had I don't remember who it was, but kind of run out of bounds. He had him, and I just think the ball floated on him a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think he was making. So, there's conversely two things, right? It's making, as a quarterback, making the correct decision for your football team mentally, and then also making the correct decision for your team physically, right? And sometimes the ball gets away, it gets tipped, you sail something, you don't make the throw you want, and that hurts you. Or sometimes you just make a split second, and believe me, like, when you got those 4 or 5 guys bearing down on you in the pocket, you are making less than split-second decisions for your football team. And there's only in the NFL there's only 32 of them in the world that can play that position, right? On any given Sunday. So it's not easy. And as a coach, you're just always looking. You're going to have those instances in a game, and with any quarterback, and what you're trying to do during the week is you're just trying to minimize, all right? And that's what separates the quarterbacks, in my opinion. That's what separates, average to good to great, it's not the measurables. It's not the arm strength or the 40 time or am I 6'5" or I dress in a phone booth. Those things. What separates the division of good to great at the quarterback position is guys that make great decisions for your for your football team. All right, at the right moment, and those happen. Those are going to come up, and sometimes the best decision a quarterback makes is to throw it out of bounds. You know, and everybody's going, why is he throwing it out of bounds? You know, what's wrong with him? You know, what's going on? Well, guess what, guys? Sometimes the defense wins. Mm-hmm. They got smart guys over there, too. Mm-hmm. They got good players, too. Both those guys are very talented guys. And, you know, physically sometimes they feel that they've got what makes them great is sometimes the thing that hurts them, right? I can fit this ball into this window. I can make this throw. You know, I can do these things. Well, that was what makes them a great player, and then sometimes it hurts them every now and then. But you're right, because that's situational football is what wins and loses football games.
Right.
Right. You know, the third downs, the red zones. Have you ever seen the What Matters talk about what matters in a football game? You know, the last 2 minutes of the half, the last 4 minutes of the game, the first downs and all those. So there's points of a football game that really have a huge effect on the football game. And the quarterbacks that are at their best and make great decisions in those moments are usually the teams that win.
I think that brings us to a short discussion here of training that up, right, in these quarterbacks. I mean, we're going to have limited opportunities to really put them under fire like we'd want to, but we can do some things in the classroom and walkthroughs, even in you know, things that we can create for them out on the practice field to at least feel some of the pressure of those situations. For you, what was the way you best liked to train those guys up to be situationally aware and make their best decisions when the game's on the line?
I think a lot of times we get caught up as coaches, especially on, I don't know about defense, but on offense, of thinking that schemes win football games. I mean, you got to have good schemes, and everybody has good. Everybody knows what they're doing. You know, everybody builds good schemes. All right, but we kind of get caught up in thinking my schemes are going to win this football game, when we need to understand, no, my players are going to win this football game. And so the more I can get my players to take ownership of the schemes, the more I can get my players to understand maybe, all right, why am I calling this play at this moment? You know, why is this in the game plan? Why? I can remember, years and years ago when I do a game plan, and actually it was with Phillip Rivers. I started this with Phillip Rivers, and I would give him the game plan, and he would go and he would redline the game plan for me on Thursday. All right. And then we'd have the discussion of, all right, why, coach? And he would ask the questions. Why are you calling this play on first down? Mm-hmm. All right. So I think just pure football knowledge and understanding, maybe not the what we're doing, but what the whys. And so we have the what and why discussions in our meetings every day. Hey guys, it's 1st and 10, and I'm calling this play, and here's why I'm calling it. This is what I'm thinking on this. All right. Hey, this is 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, whatever it is. All right. Here's kind of what we're getting on defense. This is why I'm calling this play. This is what we're trying to manipulate the defense with, or why I'm putting this guy in motion, etc. So I think just the cerebral talks of watching the defense, talking with your quarterback, talking yourself through the game plan of what are the whys, coach. All right. I mean, what's the purpose of this? And I think we, I catch myself not doing that. So I would make that a point of emphasis. We'd always have a 30-minute why meeting. All right. What matters and why. So that was the meeting where we could just talk about the game plan, not what your progression was, not was this guy was hot, not what your check was on this run, but just take the game plan. All right, guys, let's put some film on and let me show you why we feel that these are the calls I'll be making and what you're going to get.
I love that idea. When you do that with those guys, how much do you feel it builds their confidence to be able to go out there on a Saturday afternoon or on a Sunday and execute versus, maybe the coach who's not having that conversation with his guys?
Well, then they just become play runners, right? And they're just running plays you call and just trying to perform in that play. And so that's good. First and second down, that's a lot of the football game, right? But when you start to become situational, 2-minute offense, end of the half, third down inside the 10, coming out from the 2, all those situations, I want them to know, hey, when it's second and 10 from the -2 and we're coming out, here's what I'm calling and here's why I'm calling it. All right. And this is what I want you to look for, and this is what's going to make the play successful, instead of just, hey, they just run that play and just go through your normal reads, because it's not the same. All right, defenses aren't going to be the same down there than they are out in the field on 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 8. Okay, and then conversely, you have to build that into your practice. So I've always been a guy that when the game plan goes in on Monday and we're going through walkthroughs, I'm always going to have my 3rd and medium, all right, is going to get introduced. This is why we're going to hard count them on 3rd and 5, because they're a pressure team or they're a 1-free team. We're going to see what they're in, and then here's going to be our answer. And then I always work on some low to mid red zone plays on the first day, because those where I'm going to win the game. 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, and red zone.
Well, Coach, as always, a lot of insight around the games that you shared with us today, and I love the thoughts and ideas on how to get those quarterbacks ready. We have another great week coming up of football. Just some weeks down the road to think about this, Coach. I think some of that those MAC games come on, and you get that situation where there's a game on every single day of the week. So we'll be there, and can't get enough of it right now for sure.
That's awesome. The only thing that hurts is my pocketbook, because I take too many trips to Bevmo, right?
Yeah.
When they have football games every night.
That's right.
So, but hey, Keith, it's always fun talking with you, and it's been a fun time. I'm looking forward to next Monday.
All right.